I'm Matt Landau from vrmb.com, and this is Unlocked, Season 7, Unglamorous. This episode is brought to you by Point Central, the leaders in smart home automation, and Breezeway, a property care and operations platform. Michelle Hodges is the president of Meyer Vacation Rentals on Florida and Alabama's Gulf Coast. And when Michelle speaks, it's like generations of vacation rental experience are talking to you. Michelle was raised in and around the family business. She took over the company from her mother, Sheila Hodges, and she's now raising a 5-month-old of her own. So she has this incredible 360-degree understanding of where professional vacation rentals fit in her broader life plan. In this interview, we cover a gamut of unglamorous. Let's just leave it at that. But I'd encourage you to pay special attention to Michelle's somewhat surprising opinions on technology, when it is and when it is not your friend, the potential side effects of family and local business, and her hindsight is 2020 advice when it comes to making key hires and solving hard workforce challenges creatively. Let's get into it. You have properties throughout Gulf Shores and Fort Morgan and Orange Beach, as well as Perdido Key in Florida. And if I'm not mistaken, the company as a whole is comprised of a vacation rental division, a real estate division, a long-term rental management division, a housekeeping and maintenance division, and a commercial laundry and uniform/linen rental division. Did I get everything there?
You did. You've done your homework. Yes, absolutely.
This is no pop-up Airbnb. This is something that has been built for a very long time. When did the company originally start?
1967.
Wow. So we're talking originals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're proud of that.
What of those divisions came first in the chronology of this business?
So a lot of folks don't realize the Meyer name has deep roots in this area. George Meyer actually, I would go so far as to say, founded the area. He homesteaded a lot of the acreage here when there was nothing here. Our county's traditionally a farming county. We grew potatoes 100 years ago. We still do, but you can't grow them in the sand. And so the Gulf was, other than some shrimpermen and oystermen and fishermen, there wasn't a lot of value associated with it. But George Meyer had been to Miami, and he knew what a vacation destination looked like, and he saw it happening here. So he spent a lot of years trying to create a destination here, and through we could spend an hour on how it all happened, but he is the namesake for Meyer Vacation Rentals today. We started as Meyer Real Estate, selling property that George Meyer had acquired, and it took a while for anybody to care about that property, but once it did, we had sales agents, and once we sold property, a natural progression was to take care of that vacation property while the owners were, in Mobile or Montgomery or Birmingham or wherever they lived. So vacation rentals came after real estate.
And then I'm guessing came the realization that housekeeping and maintenance and laundry could potentially be brought in-house.
Absolutely. So, and I don't know that we ever outsourced it even back then. I remember as a kid, we had a trailer in the back parking lot, and that's what we ran our maintenance and housekeeping out of. And it grew through the years into its own facility and its own building, and at some point in time, its own company. So it is its own operation now in Foley, which is just a few miles, maybe 6 or 8 miles north of the island that we operate all of that out of.
And was the basic premise of this kind of profit center that there's a cost for outsourcing each of these activities, and then there's a cost, hopefully that's much lower if we're able to bring it in-house. So let's make those capital investments so that the long-term profitability is better?
We have always operated our service division, which is our housekeeping and maintenance team, at a loss. I'm going to be honest with you. It is not a profitable entity for us. We offset those operations by the profit we make in managing properties on the beach. So, um, obviously, you want to do it as effectively and efficiently as you can. And as you scale, the best way for us to do that is the structure that we have and having control over it the way that we do. But we have not quite found a way through the years to be able to service the properties in the way that we're doing it profitably. Now, logistically, a lot of that is our area. We're spanned over 40 miles of beach. So we dispatch folks, quite a ways away. And it can be a challenge to identify the best way to handle and service those properties consistently when you're dealing with that much diversification in geography.
So is that consistency or inconsistency usually the first step to considering whether it's worth investing in this kind of division? Because I'm guessing if there was plenty of super consistent housekeeping and maintenance, there would have been much less need to do so.
Sure. And I have a lot of friends in the industry. This is not the same for everybody. There are plenty of management companies who do have their own in-house service, and they found a way for it to be profitable. So I think it's up to each entity, and a lot of us in the industry price our commissions differently with what's included and what isn't. We tend to be all inclusive, so we have a commission structure that allows us to offset some of these operations and still remain profitable. So I think a lot of this, especially if you're starting out, you really just have to think through where you want your profit center to be and how you want it structured. If you're going to absorb the expense of something, obviously you're going to have to be able to offset that somewhere else. So I don't know that there's a right or wrong. What works for us may not for someone else, and then what doesn't work for us does for others.
I think that's a nice way of describing everything about vacation rentals for both for hosts and guests. I'd like to talk briefly about your mother because I've never met her, but everybody speaks about her so fondly. What makes her so great? Why is she so special?
Oh my goodness. Well, if you had asked me that, in my younger years, I would have said, I don't know. But I've gotten a little bit older, and I don't know how she's done so much of what she's been able to accomplish. She's an amazing woman. She, I've never known somebody who has such a diverse skill set. She can run a multi-million-dollar organization like it's nobody's business, go home and, can green beans or make blueberry jam. And hem your pants. Like, she's just got this incredible ability to do anything. So, she has an incredible story about how she and Meyer, their paths crossed, and she found home here. She actually, my family, my first two siblings were born in Florida, Sarasota and Bradenton. And when she was pregnant with the third, they relocated here to Alabama. And when they sold their property in Florida and relocated to Alabama, the referral company, the real estate referral company was Century 21 Meyer Real Estate. We were a Century 21 franchise then. We took a break and we are again now. So it was just synchronicity at work. She had that experience and ended up getting her real estate license. And the one place she had experience with is where she went to place her license. So that's how she started at Meyer. And, it's been 40 years now that she's just taken a million baby steps to get from where she started to where she is now.
I love that. And I was doing a little bit of research on her, and I found that she, like, within a span of a year or two, won Business of the Year, Business Person or Business Woman of the Year, and then this is my favorite, literally Person of the year. I didn't even know that was an award. So based on this incredibly diverse skill set that she's got, do you think you share some of that?
I can only hope. It's interesting I'm a first time mom. We talked about my daughter at the beginning. She's 5 months old. She's my first child, and it changes your perspective so much. I was actually just telling my mom a couple days ago, like, I realize now when I'm getting ready in the morning and my daughter's name is Stevie and I have her there playing on her mat as I get ready, she'll watch me sometimes. And it just occurred to me, it took me back to my childhood. I shared a bathroom with my mom in our house. Our rooms were on the same floor, and I shared my parents' bathroom. And I did that until I was, a teenager. I would be in the bathroom watching my mom get ready, doing her hair and putting on her makeup and picking out her suits and her high heels and her jewelry. And I always wanted to emulate her. I didn't have a concept at that real young age of what it meant when she left the house and went to work. But the image that she portrayed meant something to me just watching that. And I told mom, it's just hit me and I have a daughter now who's watching me, like, what is she going to emulate?
Wow.
No pressure, right?
I was about to say, yeah, that's like incredible amount of responsibility on like making breakfast. When did you take over this business from your mom?
So I started full-time about 15 years ago, and my role as president started, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years ago.
And it sounds like back in the early days, back in the trailer behind the office, you were kind of working then too.
I was on everybody's nerves, I'm sure. I remember myself and some of the kids I went to school with who had parents at the office would come in on weekends or holidays, and they'd sit us in a conference room and we would label our Treasures of the Gulf, which was our vacation planner that we used to send out. Or if I was there after hours, I would steal highlighters from the real estate agent's desk so I could color and, occupy myself while mom worked. And I'm sure the next day when they came in and their stuff was missing, they were perturbed. But
so this is now giving you a second thought when your daughter is going to start messing with you. You're going to be like, yeah, I did that too.
Absolutely.
What new strength do you think you bring into this equation?
I hope that I have learned this from my mom. The company's not successful because of one person. My mom always talked about that growing up. It's not about me, Michelle. As a kid, you're trying to learn what being a boss means. And it takes a while and some maturity to really get the depth of that responsibility. So she's just made it so clear for me that success is about all of the people that you have around you and your ability to work together and balance each other. And I hope that I bring that. It might not be new, but I hope that I bring and sustain that. We've got some just people that are so much smarter than me in so many different ways. It is one of the coolest parts of being able to work here is being able to work with a team that we have, from just the marketing brains, but just the perspectives on service that we have, and the longevity, and everybody ebbing and flowing together to make something happen. It's just a cool feeling when you're all jiving together.
I want to talk about your team in a moment, but do you think that technology is something that you have turned up the volume on? Because I've noticed that a lot of legacy vacation rental management companies, for lack of a better phrase, when they are passed on to a new generation, technology becomes like a huge area for growth. And I was curious, A, if that's the case for you, and then I have a follow-up.
This is such a catch-22. I love and I hate technology. We're in a people business. We are people serving people, and I feel like sometimes technology gets in the way of that. At the end of the day, it's us as a service provider taking care of owners, taking care of guests. And if technology can help you do that, and there's a way to maintain The relationship, I think it's a positive, but a lot of times I feel like we try to let it control too much of the relationship, and then you lack personal touch. And it's hard to run a hospitality driven business without that. So I will say this too. I some number of years ago, I guess 3 years ago, I read a book. It's called Vivid Vision, and it really makes you stop and think about your culture. How, not just creating it by accident, but how do you drive the culture that you want to have, and how do you intentionally drive your business to where you want it to go, and what does that look like, and how do you communicate that to your team? And in thinking about all of that, I wrote then, and it still resonates with me, and I talk about it sometimes. Businesses are a little bit like children. I've talked some about my childhood and my daughter and her very, very short childhood. But what you establish in your youth sets the tone for your future. It sets your ethics, your culture, what you're attracted to, how driven you are, all of those things. And I think in business, it's the same thing. So to answer your technology question, this will tie back together, I promise. We were born innovators. It comes all the way back to George Meyer and that spirit of entrepreneurship that he had, the vision that he had. And it didn't just jump straight to Sheila. There were some hands in between that. But when you talk about her contribution to the company 40 years ago, when we were still such a young organization, what she put into it was a vision for the future, creativity, and again, innovation. So technology is new for a lot of people. In the industry, a lot of new players have come in to provide technology in a way that a lot of us have never experienced before. But for Meyer, a lot of it's not new. I will say probably in the early to mid 90s, Sheila mapped out this idea in her head of something that we called Meyer Information Systems. And I will tell you,
I love it already.
we never fully got it off the ground, but little bits and pieces of it we did. And it served us for 20 years until, eventually we transitioned out of it into something else. But her mind back then wanted to create a CRM before anybody knew what that was, a way for us to know who our owners are, to know who our guests are and where they come from and how often they stay with us and what property they stay at. To have screen pop so that reservation planner can see it without digging for it. And I won't bore you with a whole lot more details, but that's just the type of thing that she brought to the table so long ago that just kind of ingrained itself in us. So when we go to conference sometimes and there's a quote unquote new technology partner that wants to offer you something that we thought of that long ago and found some kind of a way to make happen, it's like,
The great part about that is that the actual DNA of that idea is not new at all. It's just really wanting to know a lot about the people who you're going to be serving, which is as old as time. Curious, as my follow-up question, will you share 2 activities that you would never have your team do? In other words, 2 activities that you automate. And then I'd like 2 activities that you would never, ever automate.
Okay, let's see. 2 activities that I would see. You don't even think about it. Let me think about what we do. All right, so CABA codes, for example, maybe 90% of our properties are on CABA. So we have a system that generates our owner codes every January. It prints out those letters and off it goes. So we don't ever manually generate any CABAs ever.
Smart locks.
Yes, CABA smart locks. What else is something? We handle deep cleans the same way. Scheduling, let me just generalize it maybe. Our scheduling is all automated, whether it's deep cleans, AC filter changes, how we schedule housekeepers on any given day of the week. It's all automated. And I cannot imagine sitting down with an Excel spreadsheet or a ledger pad and doing any of that manually.
And that's built into your software stack?
Generally, yes. There's a couple of different components to that all come together. But yes, that's a technology asset for us, I guess.
And is that something that you developed in-house, or is there a tool that you use for that?
Part of it is like for Kava, that is. We have, for maybe about 2 years, we got off of a proprietary system that we had built, and we have been using Breezeway for our housekeeping for, this is our second season.
Folks, Michelle's answer to this question was not staged or prepared at all. When we ask her, what 2 activities do you automate? Do you refuse to let your precious team do manually? She points out smart locks and property care automation. And the 2 sponsors of this episode are best in class. Point Central is the leader in business-grade smart property solutions. Eliminate keys with connected door locks, which allow your guests to go directly to the rental, removing late-night trips due to lost keys. You can even get notifications when cleaning crews or maintenance teams are completing their work. There's all these other great features like controlling your utility bills, water leak detectors, humidity limits, HVAC analytics. It allows you to control all of this from the comfort of your smartphone or laptop. You can head over to pointcentral.com/VRMB for a demo and to learn more. And Breezeway, the property care and operations platform, their deep learning technology, their mobile-first task management, their automation of your operations and scheduling, like Michelle says, gives you confidence that every property is going to be ready for the next day. Breezeway is helping over 400 managers transform the way they care for properties. You can head over to breezeway.io/VRMB. And when you sign up for a demo there, they'll waive $1,000 worth of implementation fees. That is a pretty good deal. Let's get back to the show. And I'd like to use that to segue into the 2 activities that you would never, ever automate, because Jeremiah from Breezeway has this wonderful phrase that I've probably started saying more often than he does, which is you should use the technology to automate the stuff that you won't get credit for. He says you should use your time to do stuff that you will get credit for in the eyes of your guests. So I'm curious for 2 activities that you would never, ever automate.
I will say one thing is maybe this isn't an activity, but phones. Phones are very important to us. Somebody's going to call us. We want someone to be there to answer the phone. So we have a human. We have a call center where our phone numbers come into, and a human being answers that phone, and then they will dispatch that if it wants to go to, real estate sales or vacations or someone in the company, whatever. But was another thing. Just so many years ago, Sheila never wanted somebody to call in and get a push 1 for this company, push 2 for that company. No matter how big we got, how many different divisions we had, she always wanted our customers to be able to call and get a human being on the other end of the line. So unless it's after hours, you will not call our local number and not get a human. Let's see, the other thing. I don't even know how you could automate this, but, visiting properties, communicating with owners and guests. I don't know how you would automate that.
Yeah, the closest thing I'm envisioning is like a little robot that goes to the property.
I've teased sometimes that I do want to create a housekeeping robot. I would 100% automate that if I could. Vacation planner, I'll throw that out there. I've had some folks get real excited about the opportunity to sell us on some software or technology that would allow us to save salaries by how we handle making reservations. We are about 50-50, depending on the time of year, with the reservations we make in our call center and the reservations that we make online. But we don't outsource those either. If you want to make a reservation, you're going to talk to one of our team members who has their butt planted in a seat in Gulf Shores. They're going to know what the weather's like outside, and if anything's happening, if there's a storm coming and a guest calls and they're nervous, I mean, we get it. We have empathy. We are in Gulf Shores. I'm not talking to you from Montana. I'm so that's in any opportunity you have to maintain that one-on-one relationship, don't outsource that.
Something very bizarrely coincidental happened yesterday. I was visiting my parents and I had to clean out my childhood bedroom. And I was thinking about our interview today and questions I want to know. And literally, as I'm thinking about it, I pulled out this old pair of shorts. I could barely even remember them. And right on the front says Gulf Shores, Alabama. I was like, how about that? Let's talk about your team because this is a huge part of everything that you just said. And I know this is something that you're very passionate about. This is also probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest challenge for vacation rental managers right now is finding and keeping great employees. I'd like to start with a position that I don't think you've ever personally found yourself in, but a lot of our listeners currently are. And that is the first or second big hire. Because when you're starting off, it's something of a catch-22 to be able to justify paying a great team member for that first role. So I'm just kind of curious to get over that hump. Is there any, in hindsight, any advice you'd give to people looking for that position or that person?
I'll answer that by telling you another story that is one that's been shared with me from years back, some of our history. So when Sheila started as a real estate agent, she worked her way up to a managing partner, and then while she was pregnant with me, she was offered opportunity to buy in and be partner, and she wanted to wait until right after I was born. So about the time I was born, she became a co-owner with this gentleman, Claude O'Connor, who is still in the area and was an incredible partner with her. He retired in the early 90s and sold his half to Sheila. So since that time, she ran the company. And she will tell you, and those of our team that's here today that were there during that time period will tell you that she just about ran them all crazy. She's creative and very driven. But she'll tell you she's great at a lot of things, and she is. But one thing that she recognizes, and maybe not at the time, but certainly now, that she's not great at was managing the details, the what I call minutia, because I'm like her and I don't do this part well either. But budgets and organizational structure. So when she set out to hire her very first CEO, she hired someone completely different than her. And so that's what I would offer to someone who's looking to make that first or second hire. It's easy for us to gravitate towards our like kind because they're like us, but then you're bringing someone into your business that maybe isn't diversifying what what your business needs. So she did hire a CEO, and he was with us, gosh, 15 or 20 years,
Wow.
or a long time. He's since retired maybe 5 years ago, but he was her complete opposite. And what bogged her down and kept her from being her best at her strengths is what he was able to take off of her plate and what he did well. So they really complemented each other in that way, as different as they were.
And I love how, even if you've got a small burgeoning vacation rental company, let's say you manage or own 3 properties, hiring that first person and calling them CEO is a powerful dynamic shift because no longer, I mean, it's almost the process of entrusting this first or second new employee with all these responsibilities that takes some of the pressure and some of the dependence of the company off your shoulders. So that's kind of a cool idea. Hire your first CEO, right?
Go for it. Something else that I've learned, I don't be afraid to make mistakes. Good grief, have I made a ton. And I'm sure if Sheila were here, she would say that she has made a ton. And the only way that you're going to grow a business is to make them. So, do your research, and obviously don't intentionally step into a pitfall. But if you do, it's okay. that's just going to make you that much more aware of what you don't want, and you'll get to do it a little bit differently the next time. So I think if you have an idea and you get excited about it and it makes sense, get out of your own way sometimes. That has been a lesson that I have learned.
I love that. Along those same lines, this is the themed season Unglamorous. So I'm curious for perhaps a big mistake that you guys have made on the compensation front of your team, whether it's how you pay people or how much you pay people. Is there anything big that you've learned in that department the hard way?
Well, I'll say this too about unglamorous. Every time you mention the theme, I think about recruiting college interns. So we're at the beach. The first thing that I do is say, it's not glamorous. Like, they get so excited about the opportunity to work at the beach for the summer, and you can just see their eyes light up, and they're thinking about, throwing a beach ball on white sand and swimming in the sun and warm air. And I'm like, yeah. And then somebody's going to yell at you and make you cry on day 2. So,
Right. And then you're going to scrape the poop off the toilet, as Sarah Bradford would put it.
Absolutely. So I think that's kind of common in this industry, though. I mean, vacation rentals, who doesn't love to vacation and travel? And it's, just these awesome memories with your family, and everybody gets excited putting those dates on the calendar. So you think about vacation rentals as an industry or as a company, and you're like, yes, that. Yes. But you get into the other side of it, and it's the service industry. You are coming into the service industry, providing a hospitality experience, and it is not the same as being on the hospitality side, the experience side that you're providing. So when it comes to compensation, I just had to pop that up about the unglamorous part. We try really hard a couple of things that maybe I just take for granted, but we do wage studies. So we want to pay our folks at the top of the scale or a little bit over the scale. So we'll look at surrounding counties. We can use
wow.
SHRM data, our local chamber of commerce, because this industry is so heavily concentrated in hospitality, actually does a hospitality wage study every other year. So we can look at what, front of the house, back of the house with restaurants, hotels, vacation rentals, accommodations, kind of what everybody's pay scale is to check ourselves and make sure that we're paying appropriately. But I will say this may have come from a mistake way back when, but just something, it can be really hard not to fall into this, but we don't match wages. It hurts a lot sometimes, but if one of our employees says, you know what, this company down the road is going to pay me $1, $2 more an hour, we don't mirror that. So I think that's why you have to get really comfortable that you are paying wages that are appropriate and at the top of the line. You've got folks in this industry and in this market who we all need bodies. So they dig real deep for a couple of months and try to fill up their nets. And those folks, it might be very short-lived. So we try not to fall in and perpetuate that.
And that seasonality is likely something a lot of people have experienced. Is that just something that you have not yet truly been able to solve? Is that just one of those deep, forever challenges?
It's somewhat gotten better in this area. So, if you go back in time here, everybody would, lock their doors and draw their blinds after Labor Day, and it would be that way until spring break rolled around. So when you think about where we were decades ago, we are very improved. Several years ago, our CVB created a sports tourism arm, and that has brought a lot of shoulder season business to the area. So and of course we have our winter guests, our snowbirds, who help us fill occupancy in the winter months. So it's nowhere near what it used to be, but it is still very seasonal, especially when it comes to your service team members. What you need to service such, half occupancy is so much different than what you need in the summertime when you're at 98% occupancy. So identifying housekeepers or maintenance technicians who were even vacation planners who were really only needed for 12 weeks. That's a challenge. So that's our internship program comes into play. They can help fill those positions quite a bit. But the last 2 years, it's just been compounded with COVID. And a lot of people have experienced this. A lot of folks are concerned about working, and especially in those roles where you aren't sitting 6 feet away from somebody. You are, you know, cleaning poop off the toilet, and getting dirty sheets together. And in our area, we use at our commercial laundry work release prisoners, and a lot of the restaurants here use work release for back of the house, and it's been shut down since COVID. So there's just several thousand bodies that are missing. The J1 visa program hasn't been implemented in the last 2 years, and those are thousands more bodies that this area uses to fill these seasonal roles. So while we always have a seasonal component, I feel like the last 2 summers, again, it's just been compounded by additional stressors of bodies that are usually here not being here.
And that youth apprenticeship program, is that something that you do directly with local universities, or how's that work?
Yeah, so the youth apprenticeship program is actually something that is facilitated through something here locally called the Gateway Initiative. It's run through our chambers of commerce, and they facilitate with the state, and it's part of a larger program. It's geared towards high school students so that they can set out on a career path and earn so many hours in conjunction with set curriculum. So I've mentioned the internship program. So we do go out to colleges and we'll recruit for interns from local colleges throughout the state and the area, the region. And then those guys usually fill roles that require them to be out in the field. Sometimes they're in the office, but mostly out in the field. The youth apprenticeship program, because those are students that are in high school, they predominantly help us out in our warehouse with Meyer services. So we pre-pack all of our linens and deliver them for our housekeepers. And I don't think that we would make it through the first week of summer without that program. They are a powerhouse for us in the warehouse.
And that visa that you mentioned, for those who don't know it, what is that?
The J1 visa program. So that is the opportunity for a college student anywhere in the world. Here, a lot of times they come from Jamaica to be able to get a visa program to come to America and to work for a season. So they're limited in time frame. They have to be sponsored. But it provides work opportunity for those students.
In the first episode of this season, featuring Rocio Lane from Clencio, she talks about this exercise that she puts her whole team through to understand what business they're in.
We make everyone close their eyes and wear a guest shoes. We all travel, even locally, we go travel. And the guest journey doesn't start at the moment they check in. The guest journey starts in the moment they make the decision to travel. Then they choose a destination, book their new home, take a flight or any transportation they're taking to get there, go through multiple challenges through their journey before they check in. They have heavy bags, they miss the taxi, there's kids crying, it's raining, it's heavy, all the things that they go through. We go through all of that exercise until the time they check in or open that door and they smell clean and the unit looks sparkling clean and it looks really inviting and the bed looks amazing and it's very bright and welcoming. And that moment when you drop your bags, your vacation mode button goes on.
Do you do anything like this to keep how many employees do you have right now?
Well, right now in season, we're probably close to 200 just for the vacation rental.
Unbelievable. So that's a lot of moving parts. Do you have anything like this built into your team?
So we have Sarah Kuzma, who's actually been with the company longer than Sheila. She started when she was 2. I'm just kidding. She is everything Meyer. She's just got such a heart for the company, and she's our corporate relations director. She does this time of year right now a lot of training with our interns to help them understand who we are and how we service our customers. And she facilitates a program that rotates between employees every single week. And I love what you just said, by the way. Awesome. Since we can't do that with all of our folks and sit them down and we utilize email. So we ask every week someone to volunteer, and they keep their eyes and ears open and witness what we call Meyer inspired moments. So just a team member who goes above and beyond, and then they share that experience at the end of the week with everybody, what they witnessed or what they saw, or feedback that they heard from a guest that meant something to them. So we do our best to celebrate those wins, and help keep everybody connected to the why that we're doing this, especially in the season when you can really feel beat up a lot of days and can just feel like it's a grind. It means the world to stop for a second, to be able to hear a story or read feedback on something that you did that maybe you didn't even realize that you did, that made a difference for somebody. That stress off your shoulders, moment. So we all need that.
There's two kind of components that I'm observing about the most sort of sustainable, the longest lasting vacation rental businesses. One of them is the fact that they are local, and the other is this emphasis of family. And I'd like to touch on local in a minute, but do you guys hype the family business aspect?
No.
You
No.
don't. You hide it.
So this is a me thing, and I'm so much better than what I used to be. And I give credit to some of my friends in this industry who spent some time through, helping me see the positive in it. But I never wanted to be in this industry ever, 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 because I grew up with my mom being this amazing businesswoman and growing Meyer, and also being so heavily involved in the Chamber of Commerce. She was a founding member of our Convention and Visitors Bureau. She still sits on the board today. She's just had these ginormous shoes my whole life. And, this place hasn't always been as big as it is today. It's certainly not as big as, Atlanta or something. But when I was growing up here, I didn't know anybody, but everybody knew me, and so my mama could find stuff out because everybody was going to tell her if they saw me driving somewhere, whatever. Anyway, all I wanted to do was get away. And as I got older and I got through college and I started seriously thinking about career opportunities, I did not. I just felt like I would always be under her shadow. So, it took a series of events for me to be okay coming to work at Meyer. And then once I did, it was like this deeply held secret. There were people who knew that I was her daughter, but I didn't ever want to talk about our relationship at work. And after, 5 or 10 years, it was kind of cool. There were a lot of people that would find out about it after they'd been with us for 3 years. And they were like, "What? Y'all are related?" And I was,
am I on Undercover Boss?
I was a huge win for me that we were able to, onboard these folks, and they worked for us, and they had no idea that I was related to Sheila. Anyway, at some point in time, fairly recently in the last several years, I will say maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, I've actually been very comfortable talking about our relationship, and even bringing in some of that family verbiage with some of our owners and some YouTube videos we've done for them, or some farming pieces that we've done to talk about that. I think it's an important component of who we are and what we value. But for the longest time, I didn't want anybody to draw an assumption about my purpose, what I was capable of doing, just because I was there as her daughter. So it took me the better part of a decade to get over that, but I am in full remission. And I claim her as my mother. And so, yes, you could say that we're a family company between the two of us now.
And what about in a guest-facing way from marketing, like the About Us page of your websites? Is that an angle that you use there?
Yeah, so you know what's really cool? During COVID, she and I sat down to do a video to our guests. There were just so many questions and different things going on with the cancellation policy and concerns. And gosh, there's just things coming at you from all angles. So we said, okay, we're just going to collect our thoughts and share where we are and what we're doing from our perspective with our guests. And it was, we're both fairly good off the cuff. We didn't particularly plan anything. We just wanted to be with them. Like, just, we're here. We feel this. We can't tell you what tomorrow looks like, but we're working through this every day with you, sort of a message. And we put it on the website, and we got feedback from guests on that. And I guess I thought, wow, somebody watched it. I didn't think anybody would watch it, but we got some folks emailing through to the corporate email inbox, and they were just saying, I was really nervous about whether I should come or not. And maybe they didn't know if they were going to come or not, but they were just saying, thank you, thank you for that message. Thank you for taking the time to communicate with us. And I just was kind of blown away. And I think I envy sometimes people who are in this business at that 3 or 5 property level, because you have opportunity every single day to be so intimate with those guests and those owners. And sometimes I forget what that's like. It's one of my favorite aspects of the job, and honestly why I do what I do, whether it's my team or my owners or my guests. Those opportunities that I have to get to know them excites me, and I love that. And it just, the higher up you go and the larger you get, the more you become removed from that. Your team becomes that relationship holder. So it was just, like I said, it was a reminder and just a fun moment to realize that as much as you value giving that to them being your customers, owners, your team, they appreciate having it come from you.
And on the local front, I'm guessing that your presence in town, your role within the community, you guys are very active, always giving back in a variety of ways. I'm guessing that gives you an advantage over companies that are not located locally, that are located elsewhere.
Let me be honest, I don't know. I love our community. I feel like being in this business takes some commitment from the community, right? I mean, you host so many people a year. So a lot of me feels like it's my part to give back, to sustain a community that gives us so much, right? So as far as our involvement goes, I almost feel like it's just an obligation wherever you are. If you're a part of a community that allows you to be in business and be successful, and they support you that way, give back to that community however you can. It's a cycle. They go hand in hand. I don't know, though. You would like to think that because we sponsored at a festival or an event or something, that a guest would say, oh, well, Meyer sponsored the balloon festival, so I'm going to stay with them next year. Or an owner would say, oh, this company's really invested in the community, I'm going to put my business with them. But it's not their community, so they don't have the heart and the passion for it that I do. So it may not have that direct connection. It's for a long time, it took me a while to be okay with that, because a lot of folks do invest in their community as a way of advertising, and maybe it works, but that just shouldn't, from my perspective, be the sole purpose, that you're investing back in your community. It's branding. It might make your community feel good. Is it going to give you direct business? I don't know. But you're supporting, again, that group of people, that community that allows you to do what you do.
I want to continue to think about this comment from Michelle as it applies to the theme of our season, unglamorous. There are some activities of running a vacation rental business that are not obvious home runs. Some things we cannot directly measure, some things that do not immediately reward. And maybe this is just part of being in an emerging industry. Maybe it comes with the territory of being a pioneer. I don't know. I wanted to touch on something that you just said, which is brand building and direct bookings. As a huge organization, you have a unique perspective on bookings that are coming in through online travel agencies like Airbnb and VRBO, and the trends over time, patterns that you've noticed. Ultimately, all of us, I think, want more direct bookings because it puts more in our control. Are there any patterns that you think are becoming sharper as a result of this pandemic and or just as a result of the growth of the industry?
Goodness, please, please do everything you can to control your data, whoever's listening to me, whatever company it is.
If anyone's listening to this episode.
Absolutely. Control your data and watch your trends. Okay. So I love key data. We use key data. I have an genius of a man in our marketing team, Steve Wilson, who's been with us forever. And we are really lucky that in and of our own data, we've got a lot of analytics that we can pull from to watch trends. We were on VRBO, HomeAway, whatever, for a couple of years. I got mad at them. I pulled off last year, not knowing what COVID was going to bring. I was trying to identify ways to increase our funnel, our marketing funnel. And I thought, okay, they had walked back some of those old policies that made me mad. So I'm going to jump back on and just see what happens when the beaches reopen and make sure that we've got our branches are as far extended as they can possibly be. Well, turns out I didn't need that. I mean, who knew that it was going to just blow up and stay blown up for the foreseeable future. But I say all of that to say, from Meyer's perspective, single digits of our business are done with OTAs. So I might not be the best person to talk about those trends. Or if you're one of those companies where 50, 60, 80% of your business comes from an OTA, we've never experienced that. We've, from the beginning of time, had our own in-house marketing team. We created our own website in the early 90s that we still have a web developer on our team today that keeps up with that. So we've never outsourced all that. We've invested very heavily in our own marketing, our own pay-per-click, to be able to generate the business that we have, the guest base that we have, to keep churning those reservations year after year after year. If I were to start up today as a fresh company, you don't market the way that we were able to 30 years ago. You're not able to create that
buzz,
that advantage, right? Exactly. So you're forced to go another route. So, there can be such negative connotations with OTAs. And just because we don't use them strongly, I don't perceive anyone who does to be any less of a property management company. It's the day and age of where we are, the amount of money they have to invest in these channels. You have to start somewhere, but watch your data, watch what's going on in your area. This is one thing when it comes to all of these pricing channels that are out there. Going back to answer a question you asked me earlier, don't outsource your pricing. If you're going to use a tool, it's okay. If you're going to use a tool or a company to help you with your pricing model, use them. I'm not saying don't do that, but don't let your hands off of it. Always be involved and engaged, and make sure that you're pulling the levers within that system, that they're making recommendations based off what they see, but that you, as that home body industry professional that knows your business and your area and your location, pull those gauges. So that's an area where I always get a little bit frustrated at conference when all of that comes up with pricing models and OTAs and how much of my business should or shouldn't be on them, and how do I know when to pull off or when to put on. at some point in time, you trust the data that you've put together, trust yourself as that industry professional. Don't be afraid to make a mistake because you're going to learn from it, and just push forward. Make a decision and push forward with it. Control it. Be in control. Don't give that up.
And don't be afraid to follow your instinct, because there's a conversation on VRMB communities this past week from Donna Martinez, who has a vacation rental in Sea Ranch on the coast of California. And her dynamic pricing tool suggested that she charge $1,140 per night for like a Tuesday. And she looked at that number and she says, this is making me feel guilty. This is seeming like I'm gouging, not to mention the fact that our community is under fire for unaffordable housing and making otherwise publicly accessible beaches inaccessible to the average resident. I don't feel comfortable charging what this tool tells me to choose. That's an instance in which you know way better than an algorithm, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We started talking about technology way back when, and I said it's a catch-22. I love to hate it, sort of a thing. And I think that this is where you just have to balance the opportunities to utilize technology with the fact that you are the human being running a people-driven business, a hospitality business. Trust yourself more than you trust the tech out there. If we were in a different business, maybe it would be different. But no matter where you are in the vacation rental world, our core is hospitality. And you really have to be, person to person. So don't remove that. And that's a wonderful example of someone who knew their industry, knew what was needed, and trust your instinct. Do that.
And Michelle, you're entering something of a new chapter of your vacation rental career. I think all of us have entered a new chapter as a result of this pandemic. Is there any interesting trends that you see playing out over the next, say, 3 years that you think will maybe surprise people?
I've thought this for a really several years, and it just continues to boggle my mind that it's taken a while. But I think with the amount of traveling going on, there's a return to the basics. People for a long time, I feel like just sometimes we need a check in life. And COVID has delivered that for a lot of folks. So if you've gone the last several years without a vacation, or if you've gone the last several years coming home at 9 o'clock at night and missing dinner with your family, whatever scenario that your life was in, and not just us in this industry, but the world, you allow life to take over sometimes. And you've got to be just blindsided by something to check you back into the reality that life is short and you're not guaranteed tomorrow. So live it, enjoy it, be with the people that you love. And I think that to a large degree, that's what we're going through right now. Last year, when people traveled, there was still a lot of angst and frustration. And we talked about where these people were coming from that just showed up and were angry and short-tempered and lacked patience and had these crazy expectations. And this year, I think that is completely different. This season for us has been really the polar opposite. People are so happy to be here. I think that the confidence that people need to feel safe in a post-COVID world is starting to settle in, and what matters in life, I think, has started to settle in. I hope it lasts for a while, but I think over the next several couple of years, we're going to see that play out. We see it locally when we have a catastrophe after the oil spill or after a bad hurricane, where this community just comes together and magic happens because people realize the value in each other. And then at some point in time, unfortunately, life snowballs on you and it takes over, and there becomes these silos and rifts again. So I don't know how long it will last, but I hope that we can all enjoy it for quite a few years to come.
And that leaves my final question, which is, over the course of the last hour, we've discussed the various challenges and moving parts and fortune and serendipity and all these pieces that go into a really difficult business. So my question is, if professional vacation rental management is so difficult, why do you do it?
What other industry is as great as this? So we talked a little while about the scenario that you ran through of, close your eyes and just imagine this family in a car and all the angst they go through getting to a destination, all the planning. Stop and think about a year before COVID, a daughter sent us a picture of her mom and dad at a beach house that we rented. And they were at the end of the pier facing the Gulf of Mexico. And they were holding hands, and I will cry talking about it. But she said, I wanted to share this with you guys. That was my mom's last trip to the beach. She died the week after that. She had cancer, and all she wanted to do was be at the beach one more time. And we have that. There's this awesome responsibility to provide these vacations for people, and it isn't just a vacation. We are making memories that last a lifetime, and that is what makes me get up every day and do that with these folks. We work together to make that happen. Weddings, last trips to the beach, babies' first trips to the beach. These are special moments in lives that will never be replaced or replicated. And we've got the awesome opportunity to help make it happen and be a part of it. So it might be hard, but it is so worth it.
I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. And Michelle, if a listener wants to reach out, how do they get a hold of you?
So my email is easy, mhodges@meyerre.com, RE for real estate.
After our call, Michelle and I were discussing the power of talking head videos, the same technique they use to convey all the trust-building feels in the wake of the pandemic. And we've decided to include a special resource in the show notes for this episode for anyone who'd like it. The Grammar of Video is such a powerful manual written by one of the pioneers of talking head videos, Will Franco. And I use this manual to develop my own video messages in the same way any owner or manager can use it, from posture to framing to props to technology, to convey your personality and trust with your prospective guests. You can download everything at vrmb.com/110, 110. And if hearing wise entrepreneurs like Michelle share their advice is helpful or inspiring to you, consider joining VRMB Communities, the paid forum of VRMB, where we're solving these unglamorous problems daily, and we're doing it together. You can register at community.vrmb.com/register. Until next time.